Hi, I'm Chef Omar at Oya Mill in Washington, D.C. And today we'll be making quesadillas along with a couple salsas, salsa serrano and salsa chile morita. I like stuff spicy. I am second generation Mexican. I grew up in South Texas and my family always had salsas on the tables. And it was always spicy. First step in making our salsa serrano is getting our pan really nice and hot. And you want it like a medium-high heat because we're gonna blister all the ingredients. We're using tomatillos. The beauty of this, you don't need oil. The whole point of this process is you wanna get the tomatillos blistered, you wanna get the chili blistered, and then it's just kind of to your liking. And while that's working, we can work on our other salsa. I'm using fresh chilies in this one, and I'm gonna be using dry chilies in my chili morita. But also when you use the tomatoes, it's gonna give you a little more sweetness. And the funny thing about quesadillas for me is that I didn't really grow up eating quesadillas as a kid. It wasn't something that was part of my household. My love for quesadillas didn't really become a thing until I got married. And my wife, who's also Mexican, their family, they love quesadillas, and they make quesadillas all the time. I really like quesadillas now, and the great thing is that you can be really creative with what you want to put in. You can keep it simple. So you want your pan fairly hot, like medium high. And you just add your tomatoes. And so this one, has a few more ingredients, but it's not necessarily more challenging. It's kind of the same thing. It's a pretty forgiving salsa. Like you can just take it and put everything in your pan, let it go. This is a little unique part with this salsa. So you got chile moritas. These are basically chipotles. Fry them a little bit, and you're gonna see that they get all puffy. This is probably the one part you want to be careful, just because as they pop, you don't want them to burn. There's some dry chilies burn. They kind of get a little bitter. I'm gonna go back to the tomatillos, because I see the smoke. I'm trying to take a look to see where we're at. Yeah, that's what we want. So you can see that some of them are starting to puff. And I'm just gonna like rough top the garlic, just to help it kind of cook a little bit faster. You can see the tomatoes getting color. And we'll go back to the tomatillos and take a look at them. You got the toasty parts, and you got some parts a little raw. And that's what you're kind of looking for. You want it to be like that. Because it's add a little bit more freshness to it. That combination of the two will give you maintain that tanginess, that fresh tanginess of the tomatillos. And we're going to start incorporating our onions and garlic into the tomato, and then we're going to let them cook. Let them go for a little bit. We're gonna let this keep cooking, and then I'm gonna start getting our stuff ready for tortillas. This is about a cup of the corn flour. The salt, it's a matter of preference. You can put a lot, you can put a little, you can put none. So I'm just gonna season a little bit. We always want a little bit of seasoning to bring out the flavor of the corn. We're gonna wait on the water. We're gonna come back and check on our salsa. The tomatoes kind of stuck. You get a little bit of that fond from the tomatoes. So after I take this out of the pan, I'm gonna just deglaze it with a little bit of water, just to scrape all those bits, to put it into the salsa. The water's hot. I'm gonna mix it slowly right now, just because it's hot for me. It doesn't have gluten in it like wheat flour. So the more you knead it, it's not gonna make it tighter. It's not gonna make it want to not press out. So you can really work with this dough. This probably needs a little bit more water. You can feel it in my hand that it's a little dry. It's pretty good. So take a piece off, throw it between your hands, press. See that it's not sticking, but if I pull it, you can feel it pull away from my hand, which is great. Big thing is too, is when you're rolling it around, you don't want to see cracking. That lets you know that you probably don't have enough water. The dough is kind of cracking, add a little bit. A little goes a long way, so you want to be careful how much you add once you kind of have your dough. So we're going to start with the tomatillo, just because this doesn't require us to incorporate oil into it. It's going to just blend it up. Add a little bit of salt. That's it. Oh yeah. a little bit more salt. A lot of good heat, a lot of tanginess from the tomatillos. And this is gonna keep in your fridge for about a week. So the chile morita salsa, again, is different with the ingredients, but it's also a little different because in the end, we're gonna emulsify some extra virgin olive oil into it. I do need to still add some salt to this. We can just mix it in. You can see that it's creamier looking. This is really a lot looser. This has more thickness to it. Not all tortilla presses look like this. This happens to be a tortilla press from Oaxaca, so it's a very specific style of tortilla press. My abuela would always use these cutouts. This is just a black trash bag. A lot of people use like Ziploc bags, they'll cut out those pieces. It's about like an ounce masa ball. Take the masa, kind of pat it down a little bit. Get the 2 nylons, and press. See that the tortilla comes right off. The quesadilla we're making today, something I saw in Puebla, Mexico, which is in the central region, just south of Mexico City. Everything about quesadilla to me is ingredients. You don't make it complicated. You don't need to have a bunch of things that go in it. You just want to have something that's really good and delicious. The first thing for our cheese that I'm using today is what they call quesillo, and then sometimes they call it like Mexican string cheese. You just tear it. So you can use mozzarella because this behaves a lot like mozzarella. It's gonna melt very similar to easy melting cheese. You're just gonna have a little bit of a different flavor. In Mexico, pork is king. Everywhere you see some of the best dishes is pork based. So what we got here, chicharrones. We got squash blossoms. Squash blossoms are integral parts of the cuisine of Mexico. And then the last thing is this really cool herb called epazote. This might be a little bit harder to find. You can always substitute cilantro. But this has a very unique taste because it's kind of got this blend of cilantro and kind of mint and anise all together. Fat, this pork lard or manteca is gonna be great for cooking. It's gonna give you tons of flavor. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna melt down some of this. For all intents and purposes, it's pork butter. Comal is hot. We're gonna start cooking a tortilla. So this is perfect. Put some of our cheese, some of our chicharron, some corn pieces of epazote, of course the squash blossoms. I'm gonna be generous with that. That's like really what makes it pop. Tortilla at this point is kind of partially cooked and ready to fold. The cheese is melting. Now this is the part that's really going to ramp it up. I'm going to baste tortilla with some of that pork fat. Get the outside of it crispy. The tortilla is still raw, so it's going to absorb some of that flavor. Fold it over, let it fry on that side. Do the same thing on this side. Go back to the other side. You see, it's getting a little toasty and blistered. The tortilla's got a really nice sheen. It's like absorbing some of that pork fat. Take a look. You can see that's oozing out. This side's a little bit toasty. I think I'm going to toast the other side a little bit more. I want it to be a little bit more toasty. I'm going to bring this over here. Gooey cheese. The blossoms have wilted. Chicharron is nice and warm and hot. Now you just have to decide which salsa you want to put inside it. So now we're going to taste the quesadilla. Put in some of the salsa serranos. It's going to have like this nice acidity, sharp spice. Real gooey Oaxacan cheese. Like nice sweet blue corn flavor. And you know the great thing is if you got all that pork and got all that manteca, it's rich and it's fatty. A little bit of that like acidic, spicy salsa. It's going to kind of cut the edge. Click the link below for today's recipes.